717 horsepower, 0 to jail in 3.5 seconds, and a supercharger that screams louder than the crowd at a midnight meet. We're about to find out if the Dodge Challenger Hellcat is still the undisputed quarter-mile king or just a tire smoke headline. Dodge never claimed the Hellcat was subtle. No, they didn't whisper sweet nothings into the ears of engineers. They shouted, "Build us a beast!" And what a beast they delivered. They flung a monstrous 6.2-liter supercharged V8 between the shock towers, bolted on a 2.4-liter IHI blower. A supercharger so large it could probably inflate a small bouncy castle, and basically dared the planet to keep up. This wasn't about efficiency or ecological responsibility. It was about raw, unadulterated power, a defiant roar in an increasingly sanitized automotive landscape. In stock tune, that means a staggering 7 to 17 horsepower and 656 pound-feet of torque. Think about that for a second. We're talking about numbers that not too long ago were reserved for exotic supercars or highly modified drag machines. And where does all that glorious grunt go? Strictly to the rear axle, my friends. There's no polite all-wheel drive safety net here, no sophisticated electronic wizardry to perfectly distribute power to all four corners. It's just 8 pistons, a whole lot of attitude, and a driver brave enough to wrangle it. This isn't a car that holds your hand. It's a car that demands your respect and attention every single time you press the accelerator. Now, if you're the kind of person who thinks 717 horsepower is merely an appetizer, then you're probably already familiar with the red-eye version. That one ups the ante to an insane 797 horsepower or even 808 horsepower if you're feeding it race gas. But today, we're sticking with the base Hellcat. Why? Because that's the one most people can actually buy. The one that represents the core, visceral experience of the Hellcat legend without venturing into the even more extreme, track-focused territory of the demon. And trust me, 717 horsepower is more than enough to get your heart rate up. It tips the scales at a hefty 4,450 pounds. Let that sink in. We're asking more than 2 tons of American steel and muscle to hustle 1,220 feet, a quarter mile, in under 12 seconds. Sounds easy, right? Just mash the pedal and go. Well, that's until you realize those 305-section rear tires, while wide, have the actual contact patch of a size 9 sneaker trying to plant a SpaceX launch. It's a battle of physics, a dance between grip and glorious tire-shredding power. The Hellcat isn't just a car. It's a statement, a rolling monument to the idea that sometimes more is just more, and we wouldn't have it any other way. It's a machine built for a singular purpose, to dominate the straight line, to thrill its driver, and to leave an indelible mark, often in the form of black rubber stripes, on the asphalt. It's a throwback, a modern relic, and an absolute blast all rolled into one supercharged package. You know, if you spend any time on YouTube these days, you're absolutely packed with roll racing heroics. Guys blasting down the highway from 60 mph, showing off their top-end pulls. And hey, that's cool. It's certainly entertaining. But for true muscle car enthusiasts, for those who understand the very soul of these machines, the quarter mile isn't just a distance. It remains the ultimate yardstick. It's the proving ground, the crucible where legends are forged and pretenders are exposed. Why? Because the quarter mile isn't just about raw power, although that certainly helps. It's about the entire package. It rewards 2 things above all else: explosive launch control and the sheer courage to keep the throttle buried long enough to read your own license plate in the reflection of the Christmas tree. Think about the history of American performance. From the earliest hot rods to the iconic muscle cars of the 60s and 70s, the quarter mile has been the battleground. It's where rivalries were born, where reputations were made, and where the bragging rights truly mattered. There's a purity to it. It's a direct, measurable test of a car's ability to accelerate from a dead stop, to transfer all that power to the ground, and to maintain traction and composure under extreme stress. It's not about cornering G's or Nürburgring lap times. It's about brute force applied with precision, about that split second where everything either hooks up perfectly or dissolves into a cloud of expensive tire smoke. Dodge, bless their horsepower-addicted souls, understands this intrinsically. They claim an 11.8-second pass at 125 mph for a stock Hellcat on stock Pirelli P0 all seasons. That's impressive for a street car weighing over 2 tons, especially on tires designed for, well, all seasons, not just drag strips. But here's where it gets interesting. Swap to dedicated drag radials, and suddenly, that window sticker number drops to an even more tantalizing 11.2 seconds. That's factory talk, mind you. Those are the numbers Dodge publishes, the ones they achieve under ideal conditions with professional drivers. Today, however, we're not just taking their word for it. We're not here for corporate PR fluff or carefully curated marketing videos. We're verifying. We've got a V-Box, a time-slip printer, and a healthy dose of skepticism. We're going to put the Hellcat through its paces, just like a regular enthusiast would, on a real track, with real-world conditions. We want to see what you could expect if you drove your Hellcat to the strip. It's about separating the myth from the reality, the marketing from the measurable. Because while numbers tell part of the story, the feeling of that launch, the sound of that supercharger, and the tangible proof on a time slip tell the rest. The quarter mile still matters because it's the ultimate, undeniable truth teller for a car like this. It's where the rubber truly meets the road, and where the Hellcat gets to prove its monstrous capabilities. All right, let's set the scene for our first attempt. The air temperature is a balmy 82 degrees Fahrenheit, which sounds pleasant, but the track temperature? A blistering 112 degrees Fahrenheit. And the humidity? Thick enough to chew, clinging to everything like a wet blanket. These aren't ideal conditions for making big power or finding traction, but they're real-world conditions. The kind you might encounter on a hot summer day at your local drag strip. We're not chasing perfect air. We're chasing honest results. We roll the Hellcat up to the line, the engine rumbling with a menacing idle, ready for its first official pass. We engage launch control, setting it to a conservative 1,800 RPM. The idea here is to minimize wheel spin on these street tires, to try and get the power down smoothly. Then, we let the 8-speed ZF automatic transmission, a marvel of modern engineering usually, do the thinking. It's supposed to be smart enough to manage all that torque, to find the perfect shift points. But even the smartest computer can only do so much when faced with a tidal wave of horsepower and limited grip. The result of that first pass? A 12.11-second quarter mile at 120.7 mph. Now that's not terrible for a full-weight street car on street tires in these conditions, but it's certainly not setting any records. What was record-setting, however, was the amount of wheel spin. We left enough rubber on the track to write "For Sale" in eloquent black calligraphy across the starting line. It was a glorious, smoky spectacle, but not exactly an efficient one. The car was fighting for traction the entire first 60 feet, bogging down, then lighting up the tires again. Lesson 1. Loud and clear. Heat is the enemy, and not just the ambient heat, but the heat generated within the car itself. We immediately noticed that the supercharger coolant temps climbed faster than the boost gauge, and before we even reached the 60-foot mark, the computer started pulling timing. This is the car's self-preservation mode kicking in, trying to prevent detonation and catastrophic engine failure. It's smart, but it means we're not getting all 717 horsepower to the ground. The Hellcat, for all its brute force, is also a sophisticated machine, and it knows when to back off. Back in the pits, we resorted to some old-school tactics. We iced the intake manifold for 15 minutes. Literally, bags of ice piled on top of the supercharger, trying to cool down that massive blower and the air it's force-feeding into the engine. It's a technique straight out of the 1970s, something you'd see at Pomona back in the day, applied to a modern marvel. It looks a bit ridiculous, but it works, even if temporarily. We're fighting physics, fighting thermodynamics, all in the pursuit of those precious tenths of a second. This first pass was a stark reminder that even with all the power in the world, getting it to the ground consistently is the real challenge, especially on a hot track with street rubber. It's a humbling experience, but it's also part of the fun, part of the learning curve that makes drag racing so addictive. After our slightly smoky, somewhat humbling first pass, it was time for a crucial change. We swapped out those well-meaning but ultimately overwhelmed Pirelli P0 all seasons for something a little more serious. A pair of 275 40R20 Nitto NTO5R drag radials. Now, for those unfamiliar, drag radials aren't just stickier tires. They're purpose-built for straight-line acceleration. They have a softer compound, a more flexible sidewall, and often a larger contact patch than a street tire. They're designed to wrinkle and deform slightly under load, maximizing grip off the line. It's like trading your running shoes for track spikes. They're made for one thing and one thing only: launching hard. With the new rubber on, we dropped the tire pressure down to a mere 18 psi. This further enhances the contact patch and allows the tire to deform more effectively, gripping the asphalt like a hungry octopus. We also nudged the launch control RPM up slightly to 2,200 RPM, feeling a bit more confident that the Nittos could handle the initial shock of power. The tree dropped, and this time, something magical happened. The car actually hooked. Instead of a glorious smoke show, there was a momentary squat, a deep roar, and then a violent lurch forward. The difference was immediate and palpable. Our 60-foot time, that critical metric for drag racing performance, improved dramatically. From a struggling 2.01 seconds on street tires, we slashed it down to an impressive 1.59 seconds. That's a huge gain, illustrating just how vital that initial launch is to the overall quarter-mile time. The time slip lit up with the numbers we were hoping for: 11.43 seconds at 125.9 mph. Think about that for a second. That's half a second quicker than our previous pass, purely from a tire swap and a slight adjustment to the launch technique. We haven't touched the engine, haven't added a single horsepower. The Hemi is stone stock right down to the paper air filter. This isn't just an improvement, it's a transformation. It perfectly illustrates the old drag racing adage: horsepower sells cars, but traction wins races. Dodge's claim of 11.2 seconds on drag rubber? Suddenly, it's not just marketing speak. It's well within reach. We're only 0.2 off that factory number, and we're not professional drivers. But this brings us to the next variable, perhaps the most unpredictable one: driver error. My right foot, for all its enthusiasm, is still the weakest link in this chain. Getting that perfect launch, managing the throttle through the gears, and staying focused all the way down the track requires practice, finesse, and a little bit of luck. We've proven the car has the potential. Now it's about refining the human element. The Hellcat, even in stock form, is a seriously potent machine when you give it the right tools. All right, we've learned a lot in our first two passes. We've established that the Hellcat is powerful and that traction is king. But what if we wanted to push the envelope even further? What if we wanted to see what this base Hellcat could really do with a few common, yet effective drag racing modifications? This is where things get serious and a little bit wild. First, we bolted on a pair of 28-pound front runners. These aren't just for looks. They serve a crucial purpose. By reducing the rotating weight on the front axle, we decrease the inertia the engine has to overcome to get the car moving. Less weight means quicker acceleration, plain and simple. Every pound shaved, especially rotating mass, translates to a measurable improvement in elapsed time. It's a classic drag racer's trick, and it makes a surprising difference. Next, for the real fireworks, we added a 150 horsepower nitrous plate system. Now, for the uninitiated, nitrous oxide, often called laughing gas, isn't fuel. It's an oxygen-rich gas that, when injected into the engine, dramatically increases the oxygen available for combustion. More oxygen means you can burn more fuel, and burning more fuel means more power. Our system was jetted for a 100 shot at the hit, meaning an immediate burst of 100 horsepower right off the line, with another 50 horsepower ramping in after 1.5 seconds. This staged delivery helps manage the sudden surge of power, preventing immediate tire obliteration and allowing the car to hook more effectively. And of course, with that much extra power, we needed a higher octane fuel. We filled up with 100 octane unleaded from the track pump, ensuring the engine wouldn't detonate under the increased cylinder pressures. With the same 2200 RPM launch control setting, the tree dropped, and this time the car didn't just hook, it leapt. It launched so hard, the chin spoiler actually kissed the groove in the asphalt. The front end came up, the rear tires dug in, and the car catapulted forward with an intensity that was frankly breathtaking. The familiar supercharger whine now had a higher-pitched, almost demonic cousin hissing through the firewall as the nitrous began to spray. It was an auditory symphony of pure, unadulterated speed. The result? A mind-bending 10.87 seconds at 132.4 bpr. We crossed the stripe with the front wheels skimming the track like a skipping stone, barely touching down. That, my friends, is production car territory, normally reserved for the purpose-built Demon, or perhaps the most extreme Shelby GT500s. To achieve a 10-second pass in a base Hellcat, with relatively simple bolt-ons and a bottle of nitrous, is nothing short of incredible. More importantly, this pass wasn't just about a number, it proved something fundamental about the Hellcat. It proved that the original Hellcat block and its rotating assembly, the crankshaft, connecting rods, and pistons, are stout enough to shrug off an extra 9 psi of manifold pressure without turning the pistons into paperweights. This engine isn't just powerful, it's over-engineered, built to take a beating and ask for more. It's a testament to Dodge's commitment to durability, even when pushing the boundaries of what's considered street-legal performance. This Hellcat, with a little help, is a true monster, capable of hanging with some of the fastest production cars on the planet. Now, before anyone screenshots that glorious 10-second slip and starts bragging on Reddit, or worse, trying to replicate it on a public road, let's inject a healthy dose of reality into the equation. Remember what we just did to achieve that number. We were on slicks, or at least very aggressive drag radials. We were running laughing gas, and we were feeding it race fuel. That's not your daily commute setup, is it? Those modifications, while effective for the strip, fundamentally alter the car's character and practicality for everyday driving. Roll the Hellcat back to its showroom trim, put those street tires back on, fill it with pump gas, and you're looking at a high 11-second car. And that, my friends, is still incredibly fast. It's a car that will happily fetch groceries, albeit with a trunk that might smell faintly of burnt rubber. It will valet park at the mall, probably drawing more attention than the Lamborghinis and Ferraris. And perhaps most impressively, it will idle in 100-degree traffic without cooking itself, without overheating, without throwing a fit. That's the real genius, the true trick of the Hellcat. Its dual personality. It offers civility when you want it. You can cruise down the highway, listen to the stereo, enjoy the surprisingly comfortable seats, and just bask in the rumble of that mighty V8. It's a grand tourer with a serious attitude problem, but then, when the mood strikes, or when that perfect stretch of open road appears, it's felony when you need it. A simple flex of the right foot transforms it from a docile cruiser into a tire-shredding, asphalt-eating beast. This isn't a twitchy, highly strung race car that's miserable on the street. It's a street car that happens to be an absolute drag strip weapon. This duality is what makes the Hellcat so endearing, so compelling. It's not a one-trick pony. It's a car that can effortlessly transition from mundane tasks to monumental feats of acceleration. It's a testament to modern engineering that you can have this level of performance without sacrificing basic creature comforts or daily usability. You get the raw, visceral thrill of a muscle car, combined with the convenience and reliability of a modern sedan, albeit one with a supercharger the size of a small dog. So yes, it can run tens, but it can also take you to work. And that, truly, is the Hellcat's secret weapon. It's a car that lets you have your cake and eat it too, preferably with a side of tire smoke. Of course, the Hellcat doesn't live in a vacuum. It exists in a fiercely competitive landscape, particularly within the realm of high-performance American iron. Its rivals are formidable, each bringing their own strengths to the table, and they definitely aren't sleeping. Let's take a look at a couple of the big ones. First up, the Camaro ZL1. With its supercharged LT4 engine and the lightning-fast 10-speed automatic transmission, an equally traction-equipped ZL1 will run in the 11.4-second range in stock form. That's incredibly quick, a testament to GM's engineering prowess. But here's the thing. While the ZL1 is undeniably fast and an absolute monster on a road course with its superior handling dynamics, it gives away a significant 77 horsepower to the Hellcat. And more than that, it feels different. The ZL1, for all its power and precision, often feels clinical next to the Hellcat's raw retro theater. It's a finely honed instrument, a scalpel. The Hellcat? It's a sledgehammer.